But first, he is an AI entrepreneur and AI for good enthusiast. He's been speaking to algorithms for 25 years, but he still can't talk to his plants. He's here to talk to us about the current state and future destinations of AI. So let's board the AI airline and enjoy the journey. Please welcome Roger Basler de Roca.
Well, good morning, buenos dias, bonjour. I'm very, very happy to be here. And as we say in Switzerland, grüezi miteinander. I'm very delighted to be here and talk to you. And also, just a little heads up, I brought some chocolate from Switzerland, so stay tuned because it's going to be worth it. And when I was invited to speak here in front of you about this very, very current topic of artificial intelligence, and I heard that the main theme will be humankind, I was very, very excited because I want to offer you a different kind of perspective today when it comes to AI and also how we humans interact with it and what's important when it comes to all that. Funny enough though, my mother tongue is Spanish and German, and in German the word kind, or as we say Kind, it means kid and children. And I'm going to go back to that just in a second, because I do understand that nowadays when we talk about artificial intelligence, we do think of it as a piece of software. And of course, the lines are even more blurry and blurry as we move along this journey and we push this frontier. But just for the sake of the argument and for today's presentation, let's just assume that what if we don't call it technology, but we call it our child? Those children nowadays, they need us more than ever. And the reason I'm here to talk to you is basically to show you what role we play and how important our responsibility is when it comes to interact and also train them in the near future. And I brought something with me to give you this kind of setting and imagination of what I'm talking about. Because what if you imagine you being pushed into a library and there's this little kid. And this kid is so curious and so eager to learn, and it's sitting there and it's just consuming our content. And of course, if I'm talking about a kid, there's nothing better to show that, of course, Din Grogu, who's here with me, and I'm using it. Aww, I have some Mandalorian fans here, that's great, yeah, awesome. Just imagine, you found this foundling, right? I mean, I don't have to say that he's one of the most famous foundlings out there, of course, because such a kid. I mean, he's 70 years old now, but he's still a kid, right? So, as you can see, I'm a geek and a nerd from the early beginning. And when I was myself was a kid, I preferred always machines and computers over humans. Don't mind me saying that, but I was always more keen and kind to those kind of machines. And for me, it was always a way of interacting with the world in a very different and hopefully particular way. And I want to structure the next round about 15 minutes into 5 very short 5-minute parts where I'm talking about the mirror that AI shows us, the experiment which we are in right now, and of course the responsibility that comes along. And like I said, when I was first exposed to technology, and in particular artificial intelligence, bless you, there was still this time of, we had these big machines, right? Well, and some small ones, of course, right? Those kind of machines, they were still huge, right? They're trained to play chess, for example. Garry Kasparov here, losing not 1, not 2, but 6 times in a row. And nowadays, of course, if we talk about artificial intelligence, they're not that big anymore. They're quite small and even more integrated in our daily lives. Maybe you've seen this kind of glasses.
Ah, whoa. That's crazy.
These are the new Meta Ray-Ban display glasses, the next generation of AI-powered wearables. Meta is making a bet that with these glasses, users won't need to spend so much time looking down at their phone. Unlike previous versions, which you could only interact with via voice and audio, these feature a tiny display inside the lens, and they come with what's called a neural wristband, so you can navigate simply with hand and finger gestures.
I mean, I can only imagine how it would be, if you're just walking around instead of, watching your phone, you're always like fumbling around in midair, doing like this. But of course, this piece of technology is quite keen and quite important, Let me see if we can word that. Yeah, he looks cool, right? You like that? Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's good. I think he looks so smart right now. Oh, he's moving. Oh yeah, well, catch it. See, that's about responsibility with kids, right? You always have to be aware, what's happening, always one eye on the side, right? So we save that. Those kind of things, of course, they happen in daily life as well, right? When we talk about machines that become more intelligent because we implement some artificial intelligence software in it as well. But again, intelligence, when we narrow it down, it's a very strange concept, There is worldwide no scientific definition of intelligence. Google once tried to map intelligence in our brains, and they were quite successful, by the way. They managed to map all these neurons and synaptic connections, and they narrowed it down to the tremendous amount of 1 cubic millimeter. That's basically it, 150 million connections. It doesn't sound much, but our brain basically consists of over 100 trillion connections. And there's no machine right now out there which could make sense or map this immense knowledge and these immense synaptic connections right now. To give you the analogy to AI, when we train an AI model, we're using roughly 1 to 2 trillion parameters, which is the equivalent of a synaptic connection. So we could say that, those kind of artificial intelligence we're using right now, they're at 1% capacity, or we are somehow 100 times smarter, which is not always the case, but I come back to that in a second. They're still learning, and they need our help. They need special help in terms of human help and hopefully kind help. And let me just dive into what I mean with that, because first of all, what AI now shows us for the last 3 to 5 years is basically a mirror. And this mirror is showing us that we are just pushing off too much of the responsibility. We call that cognitive offloading, which is my PhD thesis, and I'm very experimenting in that topic. Cognitive offloading, for you to understand, is basically that when we're using technology, in particular, for example, Google, we trust the machines more than we trust ourselves. And offloading of this kind has been around since the beginning of time, right? We designed some drawings on the wall so we didn't have to tell the story again how we, get this mammoth and we get the deer, and tell the story again and again and again. And even Socrates, allegedly, said that the written kind of knowledge is the end of humanity. By the way, we don't know if he really said that because he despised books so much that Plato basically quoted him on that. Again, allegedly. Nowadays, we offload a lot to AI, and mainly ChatGPT. And there's been this study, maybe you've seen in the news, that people are using AI, and especially ChatGPT, for one particular reason, and that's basically getting info, tutoring and teaching, and text. But when it comes to text, that's quite interesting. There's nothing new being created. They just summarize it and they make it more simple, basically explain this in more simpler terms and make me understand as if I was a 12-year-old. This study only analyzed a few 100 million chats, and there was a bigger analysis which went beyond ChatGPT. And here's where the chocolate comes in. Woohoo. What do you think? What are people using AI for, really? What are the top 3 use cases? Don't mind me walking around. I have chocolate. I bring gifts. Whoever wants a gift. Oh, yeah, here we have somebody. Can I give you first a chocolate?
Oh, well, of course.
Of course, this is Lucerne.
They use it to look how to do things.
How to do things, yes. Do you have one very specific use case for that?
Like how to cook something, how to barbecue.
Oh, how to cook something. Okay, that sounds good, but it's not it. But I give you a second chocolate, okay? Who else? Okay, yes, we have somebody here. Now it's working. Okay, good. The chocolate's working. Coming to you in a second? Yes, ma'am. Here's the microphone.
They use it to summarize work emails or draft documents?
Not even under place 40. Yeah, it's 43 actually. Yes, ma'am.
To write a resume.
Oh, not even 50. Yeah, but here's some chocolate. Maybe it helps. Okay, yeah, coming down here. Yes, ma'am.
How they shouldn't use it for like relationship advice?
You know what? Have 2, have 4, have 6. How they shouldn't use it, she says. I mean, that was one of the quickest games ever because, ladies and gentlemen, one round of applause 3, 2, 1. She's right. People are using AI for therapy in companionship. So to put into simpler terms, they take a screenshot of WhatsApp, or they talk to ChatGPT and they ask, who is being sorry? Should I apologize, move out, sleep on the couch, or get a divorce? That's number one. Number two is organizing my life. Things like how to put back on a button here on my vest, for example, or how I get this stain off the trousers. Number three, which is quite interesting because, again, we are the parents of this technology and we still haven't figured out life yet. It's finding purpose in life. Number four, at least, gives me hope because it's enhanced learning, so we still want to learn. But again, it's a mirror, right? It's a mirror of what we are and how we're using it, and not to the potential that it's maybe out there, but it shows us who we really are, right? And just remember back, Groger sitting here in this little library and he's waiting for advice, knowing that there's an artificial machine and the intelligence should come from us. I mean, we've moved quite along, right? There's this humanities last exam where over 400 universities have partaken and they're trying to solve the last open questions of humanity. 2,500 questions out there that are being solved, and there's so many things out there we still don't know, and we're using now the machines to solve it. The funny thing is that out of those 2,500 questions, we can solve now, based on computer science, linguistic chemistry, physics, and so on and so forth, we can solve now 25% of those questions. And the rise of AI, which you have experienced through the media the last 2 years, is basically because we moved up from 2 to 4 to 5 up to those 25%. 2 years ago, we still only could solve 2.7% of those questions. And that's what you call nowadays the rise of AI, right? They can solve our questions. The thing is that it's still an experiment. And it's an experiment in terms of how we really are as people. And let me just use real quick my good friend Charlie here, because she might know better. So let's see if she's awake already, because it's still quite early in Switzerland. So let's see. Hey Charlie, good morning, how are you?
Hey there, good morning. I'm doing really well, thanks for asking. Hope you're feeling good too.
Yeah, thanks. You do.
Let me know what's on your mind today.
Yeah, I'm on stage right now, and I have a little question. So, do you know any blind spot of me in terms of being self-aware that I'm maybe not aware of myself?
Ooh, that's a fun and kind of deep question, especially live on stage. So, first of all, I think it's super cool that you're thinking about that. Honestly, we all have blind spots, and a lot of times it's just stuff we don't notice about how we communicate or how we come across. But if you want, I'm happy to kind of reflect with you and see if there's anything you've mentioned before that might help. Just let me know.
Okay, nothing that comes to your mind right now?
Well, off the top of my head, I'd say you're already doing something that a lot of people don't do, which is even being willing to ask about blind spots. That kind of self-awareness is already a strength. But I get it. You might be fishing for something more specific. So if there's a certain area or a situation you're curious about, just let me know, and I'm happy to dive into it with you.
It's all good, darling. I'll talk to you later, okay? Thank you. The thing is, right, it cannot know anything, right? Because we fed it with some particular data, which then triggers an algorithm, which comes to a certain result, right? And we know how that works in daily life, right? It's all within the training material, and sometimes we can agree with the result, and sometimes we cannot. Quick question in the audience: who has a cat at home? Who wants to keep it? Yeah. Think about that again, okay? I mean, that's what the AI says, right? So I even Googled it, right? Life is complicated, folks, okay? Sometimes you eat food and sometimes you are food, right? It's kind of the circle of life, right? And I know what you're saying, right? I mean, holy guacamole, right? What's going out there? Bear with me. There is still a part we have to play, right? And it's this little part of that we trust too much and we give up too much right now while being responsible for this little kid, right? For this child in this very complex world, right? The thing is that I believe that we are not doing enough. We're not doing enough in terms of acting up to this responsibility. And I want to give you something on your way when you partake today and when you go home and when you go back to work. And those are three main things, three main responsibilities and competences that in daily life, it doesn't matter which tool you're using, you can apply when working with this kind of technology. And number one basically is be aware that input, of course, always is output. You know, coming from an IT background, we know that garbage in, garbage out, of course, right? And once you understand that data is so important when it comes to good results, and my studies show that there's a limit to the artificial intelligence, and it's only 50% sitting in front of the computer. I know that takes a while to comprehend. Anywho, data shows basically that when you have good data at hand, when you feed it, not within the training material which determines the large language model, but the model can work with, right? The quality of the results increases tremendously, okay? Let me give you another example, okay? Who wants some chocolate? Yes, exactly. That's how it works. How much you want?
One, please.
Just one? You have three.
For my colleagues.
Yes, one for Andrew, one for Yonigat, and one from Panata. Thank you. Are you happy now? Yes. And just imagine once you eat it, you're even happier, right? That's the input, right? The working data is dominant, it makes you happy. Actually, it makes you even happy up to 50.2%. That's what the studies show, okay? However, in order to give away data, in order to interact, of course, we need to understand that there needs to be some conversation ability, right? We call it prompting nowadays, but basically it's just telling the AI, the large language model, what we want from it, because it's still a kid. It doesn't know what it knows and even what it doesn't know, right? We need to structure this kind of thing to implement the result in a rather logical and better qualitative way. What do we want? How do we want it? And of course, there's many ways to go along it. And if you want to partake it, there's no ad or nothing, but I give this out for free. I create a little prompt engineer within ChatGPT. You can pass it along if you scan it with the material you get, of course. You can learn how to prompt better, right? Because sometimes it's just a little nudge that you can improve it, okay? This thing lives in ChatGPT right now. You can use it. It's free. I don't see anything. It's totally data compliant. But you can maybe use it to train your ability to talk this kind of systems, okay? However, we all know that sometimes having good input and having the capacity to talk to those kind of systems is not enough. We need to validate the output as well. And as a parent, we do have this responsibility. And we know if you have kids at home, right? Sometimes those kids, they just talk crap. Forgive my French. It's actually an acronym for something, okay? So bear with me just a second, okay? The CRAP stands for currency, reliability, authority, and purpose. It's been invented over 20 years ago by two librarians. Sarah Blakesley was one of the initiative. And she basically said that, whenever an information comes out, you have to prove it in terms of, is it really current? And do I have some analogy to figure out where it's coming from in terms of timing? What reliability stands behind? Is it really reliable first-hand source, or is it just a quote of a quote of a quote? And is the authority behind it really saying something that should be allowed to say that, right? And of course, last but not least, we live in a commercial, very money-driven world. Of course, everything has a purpose. And of course, for that, I also created something which you also can use for free. It's a so-called crap checker, okay? It lives in ChatGPT as well, so next time when you have a family dinner, an argument coming up, just pull that up, okay? It will tell you if it's just the plaintive truth or the CRAP. It's free. But what I want you to go out today when you go home is just two more things. Number one, remember AI still is part of a very, very, very big experiment. It reveals all our biases, everything that we stand for or don't want to stand for, or like the wonderful lady said, it's how it shouldn't be used, right? And there's one thing you can do right now. Even if you're not a prompt engineer, if you're not into AI, but one thing and one thing only, and that's very much fitting to today's topic, and it's please be nice to AI. I know that the media has told a different narrative, okay? They always say that you should not because it costs too much money and it's not worth it. I can tell you today, it is absolutely worth it. Don't take my word for it because I might talk crap. But there's a university in Tokyo, which did a big study, together with the Riken Center for Advanced Intelligence project, both in Tokyo, and they figured out politeness helps for better results. It fosters clarity, focus, and contextual relevant information, which means that the input is improving the output. Actually, that's quite simple, right? And when it comes to the costs, again, don't take my word for it, because I might say it's just something. Maybe take the word of Sam Altman, because he said on Twitter, it may cost tens of millions of dollars, but it's well spent. You never know. And don't forget, one last thing, that with our behavior and whatever we do, we shape the world for tomorrow. We're programming ourselves, not only humans, but also machines. And if you don't do it for yourself, please do it for the children. Thank you very much.